Hello, my name is Curtis Lindner. I'm the Historical Director in the Americana Department at Heritage Auctions. I'm joined by my colleague, Ryan Dohm, who's one of our senior catalogs in historical. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
Glad we're going to be able to speak about the Seeley family Christmas collection. I've been with Heritage a little over 3 years, and I've seen some amazing collections come through house in our area, and I have to say that the Seeley family Christmas collection certainly ranks at the top. It's dedicated mostly to presidential material related to Christmas themes, whether it's invitations to the White House china, things of that nature. And we have an amazing collection to be offered on December 3rd of this year. It's going to be a 2-day auction over that weekend, and we're extremely excited about it. Ryan has been an intimate person involved with the auction and the preparation of the auction. And every time we both opened up boxes, we were amazed by some of the material that we did find. We'd like to start off with the first piece, which is a early piece of White House china. This was used during the James Madison administration. James Madison is thought to be the father of the Constitution. And Ryan, from the research you've done, we believe that this was acquired by the Madison family in approximately 1806?
That's right. When he was Secretary of State and traveling, made the purchase in Paris. During his trip there, it was acquired and yes, used in the White House during his administration, one of the earliest pieces of china.
Absolutely. I don't think Heritage has offered a piece this early. We did recently have a piece that was owned by Martha Washington, but of course the White House wasn't in existence when George Washington was in office. So this is likely the earliest piece that we've offered at Heritage, and it's just a wonderful piece with beautiful designs and would be highly coveted by any person who collects White House china. We're going to go into the area of the Kennedys right now, and this is something from a sad moment in our time. November 22nd, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. Mrs. Kennedy did stay on in the White House for a period of time before she left the White House to go live in Georgetown. That's a section in Washington, D.C. And what we have here is an authentic White House card signed by Jacqueline Kennedy, made out to Evelyn Lincoln, who was the personal secretary to the president from 1953 to 1963. And it basically says, "There will never be another Camelot again," and it's signed Jackie. And of course, Camelot referring to the play, and it is said that the president and his wife would listen to the record where they would talk about Camelot, Camelot, and here is a reference written by the former First Lady referring to Camelot. Probably one of the coolest pieces I've ever encountered, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, an incredibly rare opportunity to find Jacqueline actually referring to Camelot and, basically writing it to such a close association with the president.
Absolutely.
To his personal secretary.
And I'd like to think that this is one of the premier auctions in the Seeley family Christmas collection. It's just spectacular, right. And we were very excited when we came across that. Sticking with the Kennedys, we're going to go again to a Christmas theme. Again, a somewhat sad and somber time in the history of our country. These cards were designed by the First Lady, just like other First Ladies prior to her and after Mrs. Kennedy. Beautiful, beautiful card. And prior to the President and Mrs. Kennedy and their staff going to Dallas in November of 1963, it's likely Mrs. Kennedy brought several of these examples to the President in the White House, and he did sign some. And this is authentically signed by the President and Mrs. Kennedy, the First Lady. Ryan, from the research you've done, not too many were probably signed by the President or the First Lady.
Very few. Reputedly, perhaps 50 were signed by both, but there are very few examples of any signed cards going to auction.
Again, just a fantastic piece. Very excited to offer this in the auction. Next, we're going to go to the Roosevelt family, specifically Franklin Roosevelt, of course, our only 4-term president in our country's history, a war president. Everybody has seen, I'm sure, the videos of the president making that famous speech a couple of days after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And what we have here is a D-Day prayer bound in a book format. Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, only approximately 100 printings are known. And what's very interesting about this piece is it is inscribed and signed to Henry Stimson, who was Secretary of War in the Franklin Roosevelt administration, and it is dated Christmas 1944. Ryan, from your research, how many of these do you think were possibly signed by the president and inscribed?
Well, not all 100 were signed by Roosevelt. I mean, it was limited to 100 copies, specially bound, that he would give as Christmas presents.
I believe this is number 5.
This is number 5, actually hand numbered. The limitation number is hand numbered by Franklin Roosevelt, and not all 100 were signed by Roosevelt. I don't know if anyone knows definitively how many were signed, but this is number 5 of 100.
Yeah, just a fantastic item. You can imagine Roosevelt maybe sitting by his fireplace signing some of these for some high-ranking people in his administration, and you don't get much higher than a Secretary of War in a presidential administration. Lastly, another war-themed piece. We have a proclamation. It's the German surrender during World War II, and it is signed by President Harry Truman, inscribed and signed to likely the first assistant to the president, the first chief of staff in a presidential administration, Mr. John Steelman. And Ryan, a wonderful presentation, bold inscription, bold signature of the president, and if I'm not mistaken, dated in 1945 on Christmas Day.
That's right, yeah, these were more common to find them just signed by Truman. He would present these as Christmas presents, but there are very few examples that are personally inscribed to very close cabinet members. And
did you think maybe only a handful, maybe 4 or 5 are inscribed?
Only 4 known in my research
that you could find.
In terms of personally inscribed, so a very rare example to find. Yeah, in this format.
And what's fantastic about this is not only signed by the president, but inscribed to a cabinet member. Several months ago, we had another example that was inscribed and signed to Frances Perkins, who was the first woman cabinet member in the country's history, and she was a cabinet member and head of the Labor Department, and there's actually a building dedicated to her below the Capitol building right near the mall in Washington, D.C. So again, these are just a few selections from the Seeley Family Christmas Collection. Again, the auction is on December 3rd. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. My email address is curtisl@ha.com. Ryan?
RyanD@ha.com.
And again, thank you very much for viewing our video. And again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you very much.